The darkness that envelops the bridge of the quantum echo was not merely an absence of light. It was a palpable, consuming entity, a void that had swallowed hope whole. Commander Zixathera's long, slender fingers, usually dancing across control panels with graceful precision, now rested motionless on the dead console before her. The symphony of blinking lights and humming processors that should have been the ship's heartbeat was silent. Only the faint, desperate glow of emergency power illuminated the terror in the wide, dark eyes of her crew. 12 Altarian souls, brilliant minds forged in the fires of academia, not the crucible of survival. They were explorers, catalogers of cosmic wonders, now entombed in a derelict metal coffin adrift in the interstellar abyss. Like, subscribe, share, and comment below to join us on this epic journey from despair to destiny. 3 standard cycles prior, their mission had been one of peaceful inquiry. The quantum echo, a pinnacle of Altarian research, had been lured by anomalous energy signatures near a dead star system, readings that defied their vast databases. Scientific curiosity, the very core of their being, had compelled them closer toward a silent, monolithic relic floating in the eternal night. It was ancient, older than their civilization, a tombstone for a forgotten empire. Their mistake was a simple scan, a scientist's greeting. In response, the tombstone awoke. Weapons older than history swiveled with malevolent intent. A searing lance of energy, not meant to destroy, but to cripple, sheared through their propulsion systems with surgical cruelty. The hyperdrive screamed and died. Main engines fell silent. Even their backups sputtered into oblivion. They were not killed. They were stranded, left to ponder their mortality as their lifeblood, power, air, heat, slowly seeped away into the infinite cold. Engineering, final status report. Zixathera's voice was a melody strained through a filter of dread. The static-filled reply was a death knell. The hyperdrive core is crystallized, Commander. It is not a component failure. It is a fundamental, structural annihilation. We cannot fix what is no longer there. Dr. Kethley, the medical officer, approached, her usually vibrant indigo skin tinged with a worrying pallor. Life support is failing. The recyclers are struggling against rising CO2 and toxin levels. We have 6 days, perhaps 7 if we enter medically induced stasis, but the equipment for that is on the secondary deck, which has lost power. 6 days. Zixathera's mind, trained for complex calculations, rendered a brutal verdict. The nearest Altarian patrol was months distant. Their distress beacon pulsed its futile cry into the emptiness, powered by dying capacitors. In 2 days, it too would fall silent. Their story would end not with a bang, but with a fading whisper lost in the cosmic static. "We should record final messages," suggested Veltar, the communications officer, his voice hollow. "For our families, for the Confederacy, so they might know how it ended." It was a surrender, acceptance of the void. The crew moved through their tasks with the solemnity of archivists curating their own demise. The temperature plummeted, a creeping frost that mirrored the chill in their souls. They huddled in insulation layers, their breath fogging in the dim light, watching the star-dusted blackness outside the viewports, a breathtaking vista of utter indifference.
The darkness that enveloped the bridge of the quantum echo.
On the 3rd day, as the beacon's power gauge bled toward zero, a subtle shift occurred. Veltar, slumped at his post, suddenly stiffened. His hands flew to his headset, pressing it against his ear canals. I am detecting a carrier wave, a response pattern, faint but coherent. The bridge, a morgue of despair, crackled with a sudden electric tension. "Confirm," Zixathera demanded, her heart hammering against her thin ribs. "It is artificial, bearing 037. But, Commander, the modulation is archaic. Primitive radio wave packets, not quantum entanglement. And the language, it is not in any database." A collective breath was held. Then, through the grating static, a voice emerged. It was harsh, guttural, a sound of grinding stone and firm resolve, painstakingly parsed by the translation computer into halting, resonant words. "Unknown vessel. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Navy warship, Defiant Resolve. We read your distress signal. State your condition. Do you require assistance?" The words hung in the frozen air. Assistance. A concept so foreign in this context, it felt like a trick. Zixathera locked eyes with her crew. This was the fulcrum, the moment where hope and peril became indistinguishable. Who were these humans? Their technology sounded crude, yet they had detected a beacon no one else could hear. Were they saviors, or scavengers drawn to the dying? "Open a channel," Zixathera commanded, her voice finding a sliver of strength. "This is Commander Zixathera of the Altarian research vessel Quantum Echo. Our vessel is crippled. Life support is critical. We are in dire need." The pause that followed was an eternity. Then the reply, clearer now, imbued with a tone of unwavering certainty. "Quantum Echo, hold your position. We are altering course. Estimated arrival, 47 minutes. Help is on the way." Before Veltar could confirm, the sensor suite, running on its last dregs of power, chimed. Massive energy signature, approaching at, by the ancients, that velocity is impossible for sublight. It's translating from a warp bubble directly into our vicinity. Through the viewport, a new star was born. It grew, not with the gentle ascent of a distant sun, but with the aggressive rush of a hammer falling. It resolved into a shape that stole the breath from every Altarian on the bridge. The Defiant Resolve was not a ship. It was a declaration of war given form. Angular, armored, scarred from battle, its matte black hull drank the starlight. Weapon batteries, cold and numerous, dotted its surface. It moved with a lethal, predatory grace, a shark cutting through the ocean of space, and it positioned itself between the quantum echo and the infinite dark. The alien voice returned, filling the bridge. "Quantum Echo, prepare for docking maneuver. We will board to render immediate engineering and medical aid. Prepare to receive boarding parties." Boarding parties. The term echoed with historical horror. Tales of ancient marauders and slaver raids flashed through Zixathera's mind. This warship could vaporize them with a thought. Yet, they spoke of aid. Was it a ruse, a final, cruel game before the harvest? She had no choice. To refuse was to choose a certain, quiet end. To accept was to leap into the unknown, trusting the hands of a species named for dirt, who sailed in a vessel named for defiance. "Acknowledged, Defiant Resolve," Zixathera transmitted, the words tasting of both ash and potential. "We await your arrival." As the monstrous warship extended a docking umbilical, a metallic serpent reaching across the void, Zixathera gathered her crew. "Show no aggression, but show no weakness. We are Altarians. We face the unknown, as we always have, with observation, with logic." Yet, her own logic failed her. Nothing in the annals of xenosociology prepared one for this. The airlock coupling was a deafening metallic scream that vibrated through the bones of the ship. The door hissed open, revealing not monsters, but something arguably more disquieting: disciplined efficiency. The humans were shorter, denser, biological structures optimized for kinetic impact and endurance. Clad in armored environment suits, they moved with a coordinated, tactical precision that spoke of ingrained training. Their leader stepped forward, removed her helmet, and revealed a face that was a map of lived experience. Dark eyes that held the weight of command, skin weathered by strange suns, and the faint silver lines of old scars. "Commander Zixathera, I'm Captain Sarah Chen." The translated voice was firm, but lacked malice. It was the voice of someone assessing a problem, not prey. "I am," Zixathera replied, forcing her vocal cords to steady. Chen's gaze swept the bridge, taking in the frost, the dim lights, the drawn faces of the Altarians. "Your report understated the situation. This isn't a malfunction. This is a hospice." She touched a device on her wrist. "Chen, to resolve. Medical and engineering teams, full disaster protocols. We're looking at acute hypoxia, hypothermia, and systemic power collapse. Get the mobile generators and atmosphere processors over here now." Then she looked back at Zixathera. "My people are bringing your life support back online. Then we'll look at your engines. Let's get you breathing easy first." Zixathera was stunned into silence. No demands, no negotiations, just action. Behind Chen, human personnel streamed in, carrying heavy equipment. One, a female with fiery red hair, marked with a medical cross, went straight to Dr. Kethely with a scanner. "I'm Dr. Rodriguez. I need to check your vitals. Your skin coloration indicates advanced hypoxia. May I?" The Altarian medical officer, in a daze, nodded. The human scanner hummed, its readings causing Rodriguez's brow to furrow. "Captain, confirmed, critical O2 saturation across the board. We need to pipe in our air now." Another human, a stocky man with graying hair and hands that looked like they could dismantle a star or rebuild it, bellowed from a corridor. "Captain, found their environmental control. It's a beautiful piece of engineering, but it's got a fractured manifold. That's your leak. I can bypass it, but I need the sealant kit from Bay 3. The bridge of the quantum echo, moments ago a tomb, was now a triage center. Humans worked with a furious, compassionate urgency. They asked no permission, offered no explanations for their technology. They simply acted. Zixathera watched as a human engineer, named Martinez, not only fix the broken manifold, but showed a fascinated Bixtel how to reinforce the surrounding conduits to prevent future failures. "See this stress point? Your design is elegant, but it fatigues here. A simple lattice brace solves it. Let me show you." Bixtel, the Altarian engineer, was mystified. You are giving us this knowledge? Freely?" Martinez looked up, his eyes crinkling. "Knowledge that keeps people alive isn't for keeping, it's for giving." Captain Chen approached Zixathera, who finally found her voice. "Why? Your ship? It is a weapon. You have dominance. You could take what you wish. Why this generosity?" Chen paused, considering the Altarian. "You were dying. We could help. The why is irrelevant." "It is not irrelevant to us," Zixathera insisted, her scientific mind rejecting the illogic. Altarian society is built on balanced exchange. Energy, information, resources, all exist in a careful equilibrium. You disrupt this equation. A faint, almost sad smile touched Chen's lips. Maybe your equation is missing a variable, Commander. The variable of compassion. She was interrupted by a call from her ship. Captain, this is Lieutenant Commander Park on the bridge. Long-range sensors are picking up multiple contacts. High warp signatures, 5 of them, bearing directly for your location. They are not matching any known human or Confederate profile. The warmth that had begun to seep into the quantum echo seemed to freeze anew. Chen's face transformed from weary compassion to razor-sharp focus. Configuration? Origin? Park's voice was tight, biological. Massive life signs housed within what looks like organic warships. Energy signatures match. Captain, they match the historical profiles for Krill swarm hunters. The word Krill did not need translation. It was a primal scar on the galactic consciousness. Ancient, ravenous, they were the darkness that civilized species told tales about to warn their young. Harvesters of worlds, enslavers of species. They did not negotiate, they consumed. Dr. Kefali let out a low, shuddering whimper. The stories, they are real. Zixathera felt the fragile hope shatter. Captain Chen, you must disengage. Take your people and go to warp, now. The Krill. No single ship survives them. There is no shame in retreat. Our fate was sealed days ago. Chen looked from the terrified Altarians to the status display on her wrist, then out the viewport at her mighty but alone warship. Her eyes met Zixathera's. In them, the Altarian commander saw not fear, but a grim, unshakable calculation. Lieutenant Commander Park, Chen said, her voice dropping into a calm, command register that brooked no argument. Sound general quarters. All hands to battle stations. Power all weapons. Bring the reactor to combat output. She then turned back to Zixathera. Commander, get your people to secure compartments. This is going to get rough. She moved toward the airlock, her crew falling in behind her with disciplined haste. You cannot fight 5 Krill bioships, Zixathera pleaded, following her. It is suicide. At the airlock, Captain Chen turned one last time. Her earlier softness was gone, replaced by the flinty resolve of her ship's name. You sent a distress call, she said, each word a hammer stroke. We answered. That means something to us. We don't abandon people to monsters. The airlock sealed. The docking tube retracted. Through the viewport, Zixathera and her crew watched as the Defiant resolve, a sliver of forged metal against the impending tide of living night, turned its bow not away, but toward the incoming terror, its weapons glowing with a cold blue light. Section of our tale ends here, on the knife's edge of annihilation. The humans, embodying a principle that defies cold logic, have chosen to stand. The Altarians, witnesses to a courage they cannot comprehend, can only watch as the darkness converges. In the vast, uncaring theater of space, a single ship prepares to make a stand, not for territory, not for resources, but for a simple, radical idea, that no one should die alone in the dark. The battle for the soul of the galaxy is not fought with empires clashing, but with one warship positioning itself as a shield. Strong. The Defiant resolve did not merely wait for the storm, it charged into it. As the docking umbilical retracted, the human warship's engines flared with a controlled, violent fury, maneuvering with a jarring agility that defied its mass. It placed itself squarely between the drifting, fragile quantum echo and the 5 nightmares emerging from the warp. Zixathera stood frozen at the viewport, her senses overwhelmed. The Krill bioships were abominations against the ordered cosmos. They were not constructed. They were grown. Vast leviathans of chitinous plate and pulsating organic machinery, each the size of a small moon. Their forms were asymmetrical, twisted, a blasphemous parody of life, veined with filaments of captured stellar plasma that glowed a sickly violet. At their prows, massive bony apertures served as both maw and main battery, lined with crystalline teeth that could crack a continent. They moved with a silent, oil-slick grace, exuding a palpable aura of ancient, predatory hunger. "By every star," breathed Veltar, his voice a hollow echo. "The archives, they did not do them justice." Captain Chen's voice, preternaturally calm, crackled over the open channel. "Quantum echo. Maintain position and silence. Do not, under any circumstances, activate active sensors or weapons. You are a piece of drifting debris. Let them focus on me." On the Defiant Resolve's bridge, a place of harsh, functional lights, low hums, and the scent of ozone and recycled air, Captain Sarah Chen strapped herself into the command chair. Her crew moved with a silent, lethal efficiency. Lieutenant Commander Park, her XO, called out readings from the tactical station, his voice a steady drumbeat. "Swarm pattern forming. They're spreading to envelop. Lead bioship is charging its primary weapon. Energy signature spiking." Chen's eyes were locked on the main viewer, where the lead Krill vessel's maw began to swirl with a vortex of corrupted light. "Helm, evasive pattern Zeta Niner. On my mark. Weapons. Target the weapon conduit at the base of the maw. Full barrage, plasma and kinetics. We hit it the second it shows its throat." "Aye, Captain," the responses came, crisp and devoid of fear. The Krill struck first. A beam of pure entropic energy, a river of liquid shadow that unraveled the fabric of local spacetime, lanced from the lead ship. It was not designed to pierce armor, but to unmake it, to reduce matter to its disassociated, primordial state. "Mark!" Chen barked. The Defiant Resolve vanished from the point of aim, its inertial dampeners screaming as it executed a 90-degree lateral thrust that would have pulped unenhanced crew. The entropic beam washed through empty space. Before the Krill weapon could recycle, the human warship answered. It was not a single shot, but a symphony of destruction. Plasma cannons vomited globes of contained stellar fire. Magnetized railguns hurled tungsten rods at a fraction of light speed. Missile pods rippled, sending swarms of smart munitions that wove through the void like angry hornets. The barrage converged on a single point, the glowing energy conduit feeding the Krill's maw. The impact was a silent, blossoming flower of light and shattered kitten. The bioship's scream was not sound, but a psychic wave of pain and rage that vibrated through subspace, causing the Altarians on the Quantum Echo to cry out, clutching their sensitive temples. "Direct hit," Park reported. "Primary weapon disabled. Significant structural damage. Its bleeding atmosphere and fluids." A cheer tried to rise in Zixathera's throat, but it died as the other 4 Krill ships reacted. They did not panic. They adapted. They moved not as individuals, but as a single predatory organism, their movements becoming synchronized, herding, constricting. Dark energy tendrils, like grasping roots of a malignant tree, lashed out from multiple vectors, not to kill immediately, but to entangle, to slow. The Defiant Resolve became a dancer in a cage of lightning. It spun, jinked, and rolled, its point defense lasers creating a shimmering web that vaporized the smaller tendrils. But the space to maneuver shrank with each passing second. A grazing tendril scraped the port armor, and the ship shuddered, a deep metallic groan transmitting through the hull. Port armor layer compromised. Deck 7 venting atmosphere sealed, an engineer reported over the internal comms. Chen didn't flinch. They're trying to trap us. Helm, full thrust toward the smallest bioship. Tactical, target its propulsion clusters. We break the net. The human ship surged forward, a dagger aimed at the heart of the swarm. It was a move of breathtaking audacity. The Krill, expecting retreat or static defense, hesitated for a critical half-second. The defiant resolve poured fire into one of the smaller hunters, its organic thrusters erupting in gouts of phosphorescent ichor. The creature writhed, falling out of formation. But the cost was immense. Focusing on one target left them exposed. The lead ship, though wounded, fired a secondary battery. A volley of hypervelocity spore pods, each capable of boring through meters of alloy, slammed into the defiant Resolve's stern. The lights on the human bridge flickered. Alarms shrieked. Engine 2 offline. Maneuvering thrusters at 40%. Hyperdrive coil damaged, Park shouted over the cacophony. On the Quantum Echo, Zixathera watched in horror as atmosphere and debris crystallized instantly into a glittering cloud around the human ship's wounded flank. The defiant Resolve was bleeding, its movements turning sluggish. "They're converging for the kill," Bixtel whispered, his instruments painting the grim tactical picture. The 4 functional Krill ships formed a tight sphere around the wounded human vessel. Chen's voice came over the channel again, still steady, but now edged with a grim finality. "Quantum Echo, this is Defiant Resolve. Our hyperdrive is inoperable. Sublight capability critical. We are going to attempt a disruptive action. When it happens, you will have a window. Take it. Run. Don't look back." "Disruptive action," Zixathera whispered. Then she understood. A cold, terrible admiration washed over her. They were going to use their dying ship as a bomb. "No," Dr. Cathali moaned. On the defiant Resolve, Chen unstrapped and stood. The bridge was filled with smoke and the red glow of emergency lights. Her crew looked to her, their faces sooted but resolute. "You all know the plan," she said, her voice quiet in the sudden silence of ceased alarms. "Scramble the core. Set the cascade for 30 seconds. Evacuation order. All hands to escape pods. Now." There were no protests, no tears, only sharp nods. They had known this was a possible end when they answered the distress call. They had chosen it. As the crew began their orderly, rapid evacuation, Chen stayed for a moment longer, her hand on the cold console. She looked at the viewer, at the closing jaws of the Krill. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Navy. To the Altarians, get home. Tell them we were glad to meet you." She turned and ran for her pod. The defiant Resolve, powered by its dying reactor and the last commands of its crew, surged forward one last time. Not away, but directly into the gaping maw of the lead Krill bioship. It rammed deep into the organic tissue, a metal splinter driven into a living heart. For 3 seconds, nothing. Then, a light. It began at the core of the human ship, a white, pure point of annihilation that swelled, consuming the defiant Resolve, then the Krill ship from the inside out. The resulting explosion was not just fire and force. It was a cleansing detonation of matter-antimatter fury. It vaporized the lead krill instantly and tore through two others caught in the expanding blast front. Shards of burning chitin and molten metal became a momentary nebula of death. The remaining two krill ships, scorched and reeling, scrambled back from the cataclysm. On the Quantum Echo, the crew was paralyzed, staring at the funeral pyre of their saviors. Grief, sharp and desolate, gripped Zixathera. They had sacrificed themselves for strangers. Then Veltar's sensor console pinged. "Commander, multiple small contacts, escape pods, human life signs. They made it out." Hope, cruel and brilliant, reignited. Zixathera's mind, reeling from the sacrificial spectacle, snapped into focus. The humans had created their window. The two remaining krill ships were damaged, disoriented, but they would recover, and they would turn their fury on the pods, and then on the Quantum Echo. "Helm, full power to thrusters. Plot an intercept course for those pods," Zixathera ordered, her voice cracking with newfound command. "Commander, the krill," Bixtel started, "are momentarily blind. That is our window. Martinez showed you how to reroute power. Do it. Divert everything from non-essential systems. Gravity, tertiary life support, atmospheric processors. Give me speed." The Quantum Echo, a gentle research vessel, shuddered as its systems were brutally repurposed. The lights dimmed to near darkness. The gentle hum of artificial gravity died, sending the crew floating. But the engine output spiked. They surged toward the scattered pods. "Incoming transmission from a pod," Veltar said. "It's Lieutenant Commando Park." The Exo's voice was strained, but controlled. "Quantum Echo, be advised, 2 krill vessels still operational. They are reorienting. You must retrieve the pods in the following sequence for maximum efficiency." Transmitting coordinates now. Even in escape, the humans were tacticians. Zixathera followed the suggested pattern. The Altarian crew, moving clumsily in zero-G, but driven by desperate purpose, began the frantic work of retrieval. They opened cargo airlocks, extended magnetic grapples, and pulled the human pods into the larger ship's bays. The humans stumbled out, many injured, all wearing the stunned expression of those who have stared into the abyss and been reprieved at the last second. Dr. Kethley and her small medical team, using the scanner and basic supplies left by Dr. Rodriguez, worked furiously. They applied human-made coagulant gel to plasma burns, stabilized fractures with alien-looking splints, and administered stimulants from human medkits. Zixathera counted. They recovered pod after pod. 16 humans. Then 17. But the viewport showed the 2 surviving krill bioships, their wounds smoking, now turning with deliberate, malevolent slowness toward the Quantum Echo. They had finished assessing their losses. Now came the vengeance. "Where is Captain Shen?" Zixathera demanded over the comms to Park, who was now on her bridge, a bandage around his head. "Her pod's transponder is damaged. Last telemetry placed her there." A coordinate flashed on the screen. Captain Shen's pod was drifting, not toward them, but on a vector that took it closer to the lurking krill. "We cannot reach her in time," Bixtel said, his voice hollow. "The krill will be in weapons range before we can complete the docking maneuver." Zixathera looked at the tactical display, at the closing krill, at the lone pod. She saw the numbers, the inevitable conclusion. Then she saw the faces of the rescued humans on her bridge, watching her, their expressions a mirror of the hope and fear her own crew had worn hours before. She heard Captain Shen's words. "We don't abandon people to monsters." The Altarian commander made a decision that tore at the very fabric of her species' caution. Helm, new course, direct intercept with Captain Chen's pod. Ignore the optimal approach. Ram us alongside it if you have to. Commander, the Krill, Veltar began, will fire on us regardless. If we die saving the one who first saved us. That is a new equation, Bixtel. One I am learning to compute. The quantum echo veered, a lumbering bird of prey going for one last, desperate snatch. The Krill ships, sensing the move, accelerated, their weapon ports glowing anew. They reached the pod. The docking was a brutal, crunching impact that echoed through the hull. Dr. Kithali, tethered to a safety line, launched herself into the airlock corridor. She cycled the door manually, muscles straining against pressure seals. Inside the small, dark pod, Captain Sarah Chen was slumped against the controls, conscious but barely. A jagged piece of shrapnel had pierced her environment suit at the thigh, and a dark, red stain, shocking in its vividness against the gray interior, bloomed around it. Her face was ashen. "You," Chen managed, her eyes focusing on the Altarian doctor. "Quiet, Captain," Kithali said, her own fear submerged under a wave of professional duty amplified by profound gratitude. She applied a human tourniquet from a kit in the pod, then, with surprising strength, pulled Chen free and propelled them both back toward the Quantum Echo's airlock. As the inner door sealed, the ship rocked violently, a near miss from a Krill energy weapon. All hands recovered. Park yelled, "But we are now the primary target." The Quantum Echo, with its precious mixed cargo of survivors, was now the focus of two enraged galactic predators. Their sublight engines, even overclocked, were no match for the Krill's organic drives. They were trapped in open space. Captain Chen, lying on a makeshift stretcher on the bridge, gripped Zixathera's arm as the Altarian commander floated nearby. Her grip was weak but urgent. The ancient station. "Shen, what?" Zixathera leaned close. "The relic that shot you," Chen gasped, each word an effort. "It defended a territory. It perceived your scan as a threat. But a ship under attack by Krill, that is a clearer threat. Go to it. Use it." The idea was insane. To fly toward the very object that had crippled them. To ask for sanctuary from a silent, automated killer. Yet Chen's eyes held a desperate, strategic certainty. Zixathera looked at the station, a dark silhouette against the starfield. Then at the approaching Krill, jaws aglow. A death by ancient, misunderstood guardians? Or a death by certain consumption? "Helm, set course for the ancient station. Maximum thrust." "They will intercept us before we reach it," Park warned, studying the sensors. "Then we make ourselves a more tempting target," Zixathera said. A wild, un-Altarian plan forming. "Veltar, kill the engines. Vent plasma from the maneuvering thrusters. Make it look like the near miss crippled us. Let them think we're dead in the water." It was a gambit of purest brinkmanship. To play dead before the ultimate predators. The Quantum Echo's drive glow died. Jets of white gas hissed from its flanks, creating a convincing cloud of distress. The ship began to drift, lifelessly, toward the station. The Krill slowed. They circled, their predatory instincts warring with caution. The easy, helpless prey was before them. The strange station was nearby, but inert. The larger of the two extended those metallic, grasping tentacles, reaching for the Quantum Echo's hull. 800 meters to the station. The tentacles closed, their touch making the hull creak. 500 meters. The lead Krill ship's maw opened wide, ready to ingest the smaller vessel whole. 200 meters. Then, the ancient station awoke. It was not the slow, ominous awakening from before. This was the violent, instantaneous activation of a guard dog, whose territory has been breached by a known and hated foe. Every light on its colossal surface blazed to life, a constellation of fierce white against the black. Weapon turrets the size of small starships swiveled with terrifying speed, not toward the quantum echo, but directly at the Krill bioships. A voice, not broadcast, but implanted directly into every communication system and neural interface in the vicinity, spoke. It was a voice of grinding stone and synthesized stars, ancient beyond measure, speaking in a root language the translation computer could only partially decipher. Threat pattern recognized. Designation Krill swarm. Protocol annihilate. The station fired. The beam of energy it released made the Krill's weapons look like toys. It was a line of pure, coherent reality, a negation of the unreal biology before it. It struck the Krill ship grappling the quantum echo, and where it touched, the alien biomatter didn't burn or explode. It simply ceased to be, erased from existence in a silent, pinpoint flash of absolute white. The tentacles holding the quantum echo dissolved into dust. The remaining Krill ship shrieked in subspace terror and tried to flee. The station's weapons tracked it with contemptuous ease. A second beam lanced out, severing its main propulsion cluster. A third beam, surgical and final, pierced its core. In less than 10 seconds, the terror that had haunted the galaxy for millennia was reduced to expanding atoms. Then, silence. The station's lights remained on, but its weapons powered down. The ancient, synthesized voice returned, now directed solely at the quantum echo. Threat neutralized. Vessel identified. Non-swarm. Biological signs indicate distress. Query: do you require assistance? On the bridge of the quantum echo, floating in 0G, amidst the smell of ozone, fear, and human blood, there was only stunned silence. They had been judged and found worthy of protection. The Guardian had seen not an intruder, but a victim. Zixathera, her heart pounding against her ribs, looked at Captain Shen. The human's eyes were closed, but a faint, pained smile was on her lips. She had been right. With trembling hands, Zixathera keyed the comm. Ancient Station, we require assistance. Our ship is damaged. Our crew is injured. We accept your aid. The response was immediate. Acknowledged. Proceed to Docking Bay Prime. Medical and engineering support will be rendered. Welcome, travelers, to the sanctuary. As the quantum echo, guided by tractor beams of gentle, impossible strength, was drawn into a cavernous, brilliantly lit docking bay within the station, Zixathera looked at the ragged assembly on her bridge. Altarians and humans, leaning on each other, bound by shared trauma and miraculous salvation. The battle was over. They had survived the monsters of flesh and the judgment of ancient stone. But a new chapter was beginning, not in the cold dark of space, but within the belly of a forgotten giant. Here in this sanctuary, 2 species would recover, and here they would have to decide what came next. The universe had just become infinitely larger and infinitely more mysterious. The interior of the ancient station was a cathedral of forgotten engineering. The docking bay, vast enough to house a small fleet, was illuminated by a sourceless, gentle light that seemed to emanate from the very metal of the walls. a warm, golden alloy that hummed with a sub-audible frequency, a lullaby for machines. As the quantum echo settled onto the deck with a soft, final sigh, a palpable shift occurred. The oppressive, existential cold of deep space was replaced by a regulated, life-giving warmth. The station's atmosphere, crisp and tasting faintly of ozone and something floral, flooded the ship as the airlocks cycled open, not by their own power, but by the station's command. Zixathera, her limbs trembling from adrenaline withdrawal and zero-G disorientation, was the first to step onto the station's deck. The gravity was a perfect 1.0 G, unnaturally comfortable for both species. Around her, the human survivors, Lieutenant Commander Park, now the senior officer, helped their wounded, while Dr. Kefali and her team tended to Captain Chen, who lay pale but conscious on an improvised stretcher. Before them, a section of the seamless wall irised open without a sound. From it emerged not beings, but servitors, sleek, floating drones of the same warm metal, shaped like elongated teardrops. They moved with a serene, purposeful grace. One extended, delicate manipulators toward Captain Chen's injured leg, emitting a scanning field of soft blue light. "Hold," Park barked, stepping forward, his hand instinctively going to a sidearm that was no longer there. The drone paused. A harmonic chime sounded, and the ancient, synthesized voice echoed not through the air, but directly into their minds. A telepathic whisper that bypassed ears and translation software to plant meaning directly into consciousness. "No harm is intended. Your biological integrity is the prime directive. Please permit stabilization." Zixathera placed a calming hand on Park's arm. "They could have killed us in the void. They wish to heal." Reluctantly, Park nodded. The drone's manipulators went to work, a nanofilament mesh, shimmering like liquid silver, woven from the very air, encapsulated Chen's wound. They watched in awe as the mesh contracted, pulling the torn flesh and synthetic suit material together, sterilizing, sealing, and injecting localized analgesics and regenerative compounds. Within minutes, the bleeding stopped, the color began to return to Chen's face, and the pained tension in her body eased. The drone chimed again and retreated. Diagnosis: traumatic laceration with minor vascular damage. Stabilized. Full regeneration requires organic rest and nutrient assimilation, the voice stated in their minds. It was not just medicine, it was art. A technology so advanced, it felt like magic, yet deployed with a gentle, clinical care that mirrored Dr. Rodriguez's earlier compassion. More drones emerged, flowing past them and into the open hatches of the quantum echo. "They are assessing our ship," Bixtel said, monitoring a portable scanner with wide eyes. They're not just scanning. They're understanding, at a quantum level, faster than I can follow." The station's voice returned. "Your vessel's propulsion system has suffered recursive quantum collapse. The architecture is elegant but fragile. We will provide the framework for a new core. Your biological systems require sustenance and rest. Follow the illumination." A path of slightly brighter light pulsed softly along the floor, leading deeper into the station. They followed, a ragged procession of two species, united in wonder. The corridors were vast, adorned with sweeping abstract murals that seemed to tell stories of star formation, nebular nurseries, and the peaceful confluence of countless strange, beautiful ships. There were no depictions of war, only of travel, exchange, and shelter. They were led to a vast chamber that resembled a serene, minimalist garden. Soft, Moss-like growth covered parts of the floor, releasing the faint floral scent. Recessed alcoves contained plinth-like beds. As they approached, the alcoves adapted, some rising for the taller Altarians, others lowering and broadening for the more solid humans. A drone presented a tray of nutrient bars and hydrating gels, their composition seemingly analyzed and tailored on the spot. "This place," Dr. Cathali whispered, taking a gel pack. "It's not a military outpost. It's a hospice, a way station." As they ate, and their most immediate needs were met, the reality of their situation settled upon them. They were alive, sheltered by a power beyond their comprehension, but they were also stranded. The quantum echo could not jump. The defiant resolve was gone. Lieutenant Commander Park approached Zixathera. "Commander, we need to establish communication with our respective peoples. But more than that, we need to understand what this is." He gestured to the encompassing station. As if summoned by the query, a central column in the room brightened. A holographic interface coalesced, showing complex star maps that were millennia out of date, yet containing familiar constellations. The station's voice spoke again, this time aloud, its tone shifting to something pedagogical, patient. "You seek context. We are the custodians. Our creators, the Zenthera, are gone. They ascended or departed beyond this galactic plane, leaving behind a network of sanctuaries. Our prime directives: preserve knowledge, offer shelter, protect travelers from the swarm," explained the commandant, Zixathera said. "Correct. A cosmic imbalance, a consumer of consciousness that threatens the great dialogue. The Zenthara fought them, contained them, but could not eradicate them. They built us to be eternal sentinels, to protect those who journey in good faith. Then comes Veltar. You attacked us when we scanned you," Veltar said. "Active high-energy scanning is a behavior pattern of the swarm in its larval scavenging stage. It is a trigger for defensive response. Your subsequent distress and the swarm's pursuit triggered the Protector Protocol. You are not swarm. You are dialogers." The term hung in the air. Dialogers. Captain Chen, now able to sit up with support, spoke, her voice still weak but clear. "Your creators, they believed in communication, in connection. It is the foundational axiom. Isolated consciousness is a temporary state. All paths converge in the exchange of perspective. The swarm seeks to end the dialogue. We exist to ensure it continues." The hologram shifted, showing not just star maps, but schematics for a hyperdrive core. But not like any they knew. It was a beautiful, crystalline structure, based on harmonic resonance rather than brute force dimensional shearing. "Your vessel's drive cannot be repaired. It can be replaced. We will fabricate this for you. It is a gift of the sanctuary. It will carry you home." Bixtel stared, his engineer's soul captivated. The energy requirements, the precision. The resources of a star, harvested over millennia, are stored here. A gift is not a transaction. It is an investment in the continuation of the dialogue. The concept, once again, struck at the core of Altarian logic. A gift of unimaginable value, with no stated reciprocity. Zixathera felt the foundational plates of her understanding of the universe, grinding, shifting. Over the next several hours, a transformation occurred. Drones worked in concert with the mixed crew. Human and Altarian engineers, led by Bixtel and a human engineer named Vega, became students to the station's serene tutors. They were shown Not just how to assemble the new drive, but the principles behind it. The music of space-time. The art of gentle persuasion rather than violent rupture. It was a masterclass in a lost science. In the medical bay, a similar fusion happened. Dr. Kethely worked with the station's medical drones and the human medic, Corporal Hayes, to create comprehensive physiological profiles. They discovered symbiotic bacteria in Altarian digestive tracts that could break down certain human plastics into nutrients. They found that human neural resilience had surprising parallels to Altarian psychic dampening fields. Each discovery was met not with hoarding suspicion, but with shared fascination. Logged in a joint database, they began building on the quantum echo's repaired systems. During a rest period, Zixathera found Captain Chen sitting before one of the murals, depicting 100 different species gathered under a symbolic tree of light. "You seem troubled, Commander," Chen said softly. "I am, recalibrating," Zixathera admitted, her long fingers tracing the air near the holographic figures. "My entire life, the universe was a system of equations. Cause and effect, resource allocation, risk assessment. You, and now this place. You introduce a variable my people erased from our calculations millennia ago. Irrational altruism." Chen smiled, a genuine expression that eased the lines of pain on her face. "Is it irrational? The station's creators are gone, but their legacy saved us. We came to help you, and in doing so, we found this. Our action, which you saw as a costly risk, has yielded a greater return than any cautious negotiation ever could. You came back for me, and in doing so, led the Krill to their destruction here. Each illogical act of help created a chain of survival and discovery." "You see a different equation," Zixathera observed. "One where compassion is not a loss leader, but a fundamental force, like gravity. A force that binds," Chen nodded, "not one that isolates." Their conversation was interrupted by Park. "Captains, the station is informing us that the new hyperdrive core is complete. It's given us coordinates, not just to Altarian space or human territory." The holographic map zoomed out. It showed a location midway between the two powers, in a neutral, resource-rich nebula. A tag flickered beside it. "Proposed Nexus Point, optimal for sustained dialogue. Sanctuary schematics are available." It was a proposal. Not just for them to leave, but to build, together. Before they could process it, Veltar called from a comm station he'd rigged with station help. "Commanders, long-range sensors are active again. We have multiple inbound warp signatures from 2 vectors. One matches human Navy patterns. The other, Confederacy rescue profiles." The galaxy had not forgotten them. 2 days later, in the shadow of the ancient sanctuary, a historic tableau unfolded. On one side, the UES Vigilance, a sister ship to the lost Defiant Resolve, its hull gleaming. On the other, the Altarian deep-range vessel Shimmering Knowledge, a graceful thing of sweeping curves. Between them floated the scarred but proud Quantum Echo, its new hyperdrive core humming with a soft, melodic light. On the Quantum Echo's repaired main deck, now a diplomatic chamber, the commanders met. For the humans, Admiral Kaito Sato of the Vigilance, a stern man with eyes that held the weight of losing a ship and a crew. For the Altarians, Arch-Researcher Tavel of the Shimmering Knowledge, an elderly, elegant being whose aura radiated profound intellectual curiosity and simmering distrust. The air was thick with formalities and unspoken grief. Admiral Sato mourned Chen's crew. Arch-researcher Tavel mourned the near loss of a priceless research vessel and the contamination of its crew by unknown influences. The sacrifice of the Defiant resolve will be honored in our annals, Sato said, his voice gravelly. But we must now discuss the retrieval of our personnel and the nature of this station. His gaze swept the ancient walls. The station is a custodian artifact of immense value and power, Tavel intoned. Its technology must be studied, catalogued, and understood before any broader interaction is contemplated. Standard first contact protocols dictate a period of quarantine and analysis. Zixathera watched Captain Chen. The human stood tall, her leg healed by the station's magic, her uniform patched. She exchanged a look with Zixathera, a silent conversation passing between them. The old equations were being applied. Caution, analysis, control. Then Chen stepped forward. Admiral, Arc researcher. With respect, standard protocols almost got us all killed. The room fell silent. We are standing here, Chen continued, her voice resonating in the vast chamber, because a series of non-standard actions were taken. We answered a distress call from an unknown species. The Altarians came back for a crippled warship under fire. We trusted a killer station. They trusted us. At every juncture where logic dictated isolation or self-preservation, we chose connection. And that chain of choices led us not to ruin, but to this. She opened her arms, encompassing the station, the two ships outside, the mixed crew around them. It led to salvation, to knowledge that advances both our species by centuries, and to a proposal. She activated the station's hologram, showing the nexus point. The custodians didn't just give us a drive. They gave us a blueprint, not for a weapon, not for a territory marker, for a sanctuary, a joint one. A place where the dialogue can continue, where what we started here, the sharing, the healing, the mutual defense, can be institutionalized. Admiral Sato frowned. A joint facility? The security implications, the technological disparities, are irrelevant, Zixathera found herself saying, stepping forward to stand beside Chen. Her heart raced, but the words felt truer than any carefully crafted report. Arch-researcher, for generations, our science has been predicated on the careful hoarding of data. We analyze, we protect, we trade. What has it yielded? Incremental gains. We were dying in the dark until the humans came. They gave us not just air, but a new principle. This station's creators understood that principle on a galactic scale. The principle that knowledge grows not when it is guarded, but when it is shared. That strength lies not in individual might, but in collective resilience. The Krill prey on isolation. They cannot defeat a community. She gestured to the hologram of the Nexus. This is not a risk. It is the mitigation of all future risk. Together, we can build a beacon that does what this station does: protect travelers, foster exchange, but with our living hands, our combined minds. We can become the next custodians. The room was stunned. An Altarian, advocating for radical, open collaboration. Admiral Sato studied Chen, then Zixathera. He saw the bond between them, the unshakable certainty born of shared fire. He thought of the Defiant Resolve's last stand, a sacrifice that would have been meaningless if it only saved lives for a day. It needed to mean more. A joint venture, he mused, with shared command, shared technology. Starting with the schematics for the harmonic drive, Chen said. A gift, from both of us, to each other. ARC researcher Tavel was deeply conflicted. This went against every tenet. And yet, the evidence was before him. His most cautious research crew had been saved by boldness. They had returned with knowledge of a lost civilization. They stood unharmed in its heart. The old model had failed them. A new variable had been introduced. The Confederacy would require oversight, guarantees, Tavel said, but his tone was no longer one of flat refusal, but of grappling. As would EarthGov, Sato agreed, but perhaps the oversight is each other. The guarantee is mutual need and mutual benefit. The negotiations that followed were not the years-long affairs of standard diplomacy. They were compressed, intense, fueled by the lived experience of the survivors. Within a week, framed by the benevolent presence of the custodian station, the Nexus Accords were drafted. They were simple, rooted in the lessons of the past days. The right of sanctuary. Any vessel in distress may request and shall receive aid from signatory members with no expectation of immediate compensation. And indemnisac, non-military scientific and technological discoveries made through joint endeavors shall be pooled for the benefit of all signatories. Strong, mutual defense pact. An attack on one signatory within Nexus-aligned space is an attack on all. And indemnisac, the Nexus Project, the joint construction and administration of a new sanctuary at the designated coordinates based on custodian blueprints to serve as a permanent hub for the Alliance. And all. It was a seismic shift. The first signature, applied via biometric seal and neural imprint, was that of Captain Sarah Chen and Commander Zixathera, side by side. The story did not end there. It became a seed. The Quantum Echo, with its mixed crew and its new singing drive, became a roaming ambassador. The tale of the defiant resolves stand and the sanctuary's revelations spread, not as a classified report, but as an epic poem, translated into 100 languages. Other species, long wary, isolated, or preyed upon, heard it. The Regelians, mercantile but weary of Krill raids on their convoys, were the first to petition for inclusion. Then the Centauri, pure scientists stifled by their own rigid hierarchies. The vegans, agricultural geniuses on a dying world. They came expecting the old dance of quid pro quo. They found, at the growing Nexus station, now a bustling, beautiful amalgam of Altarian elegance, human robustness, and custodian grace. Something utterly new. They found the human Altarian alliance already operating on the help-first principle. A damaged Regelian freighter was repaired before trade was even discussed. Centauri data storage problems were solved with shared Altarian crystal tech and human algorithmic models. Vegan soil was revitalized with bioremediation tech derived from station schematics. The Krill returned, of course. A swarm of 8 bioships descended upon a vegan harvest convoy near the Nexus. Once, this would have been a massacre. Instead, the convoy's distress call brought not just human and Altarian warships, but a Regelian flotilla employing newly shared shield modulation tech, and Centauri censorships that pinpointed the Krill's synaptic nodes. The battle was not a desperate last stand. It was a coordinated, multi-species defense. The Krill were repelled with losses. The galaxy watched. The irrational principle, was producing rational, undeniable results: safety, prosperity, advancement. The alliance grew not through conquest, but through consistent, demonstrable benevolence. The Nexus became a living library, a universal port, a galactic crossroads where the only currency was contribution to the whole. Years later, at the dedication of the Memorial Hall at the heart of the Nexus, the founders stood together. Admiral Sato, now retired. Arc researcher Tavel, who had become the Alliance's foremost philosopher of the new paradigm. Captain Chen, her hair now streaked with silver, commander of the Nexus itself. And Commander Zixathra, her eyes still holding the wonder of that first terrifying contact. Before them was a simple, elegant monument, not a statue of a warship or a warrior. It was an abstract representation of a ripple, intersecting with another ripple, creating an infinite, expanding pattern. Inscribed at its base, in the script of every member species, were the words Chen had ended her report with so long ago. They called for help, we answered. Chen addressed the assembled crowd of dozens of species. We thought we were saving a ship. We were saving an idea. The idea that the darkness between stars is not a place to be feared alone, but a bridge to be crossed together. The defiant resolve did not die in vain. Its last act was to light a beacon that can never be extinguished. It proved that when someone calls for help, you answer. Not because it is easy, or safe, or profitable, but because it is right. And in that answer, we do not just save others, we discover who we are and who we can become, together. Zixathera looked out at the sea of faces, scaled, furred, chitinous, fleshed, all united under the shared light of the Nexus. The cold, logical universe of her youth was gone. In its place was something warmer, messier, infinitely more beautiful. A community, a dialogue that spanned the stars. The Krill, those ancient shadows, still lurked at the edges. But they were no longer the dominant force. They were now the cautionary tale, the fading echo of a universe of isolation. The new story, written in acts of courage and kindness, was being told by every ship that changed course to answer a distress call. By every scientist who shared a breakthrough. By every being who looked at a stranger and saw a potential ally. The stars, once cold points of lonely light, now glittered like the nodes of a vast, living network. Each one a potential friend, each distance a journey to be made together. The lesson had been learned, paid for in blood and courage, and now echoed through the spiral arms. No one is alone unless we choose to be. The universe itself resonates with the simple, transformative power of a helping hand held out across the void.